Today, we're going to be talking about APIs for enabling digital experiences. And so, um, you know, if you think about what's happening today with the pandemic that's taking place and schools trying to figure out basically what their strategy is going to be going forward, specifically, this summer and during the fall, um, digital experiences have never been more important than they are today. And so, uh, what we want to do is just a quick introduction of myself. I'm Mark Bevenour. I'm a regional account executive for MuleSoft. Um, and basically, some folks may not be as familiar with MuleSoft as maybe Salesforce, but MuleSoft is a Salesforce company. So today's agenda, we're going to be talking about digital age and basically how expectations have been changing for the constituents of Rutgers. We'll then dive into APIs as digital enablers. So how do we build out an API strategy to actually allow these APIs to actually change digital experiences? And then we'll talk a little bit about the new constituent experience and basically how this innovation and disruption kind of go hand in hand. And I'll talk about some case studies as well. And then last but not least, at the end of the session, there is an opportunity for folks who are interested. I have a blueprint that's basically I can share with you. And it's a blueprint on integration as a strategy. And if I ask the Rutgers communities, generally speaking, just saying, hey, what's Rutgers integration strategy? Most people have a hard time articulating that. So just tell you a little bit about MuleSoft before we go into the presentation. So MuleSoft's mission is to help organizations change and innovate faster by making it easy to connect the world's application, data, and devices. So a lot goes into that, and I'll talk a little bit more about how we actually do that. So the MuleSoft created a platform, an integration platform called Anypoint. And today it's the world's #1 most trusted integration platform. And basically what's unique about this approach is that essentially it's a platform that you build your APIs, integrations, you manage them, and then you deploy and share them all from the same platform. So basically the use case here is designed to actually manage a whole API lifecycle. And so for folks that are unfamiliar with APIs, I'll talk a little bit about what APIs are in a minute. So when you think about integrations and APIs and things of that nature, that's not the first thing that comes to mind when I'm having a digital experience, right? I'm basically thinking, hey, when I'm trying to order something or I'm trying to consume something that's digital, I'm not really thinking about the integrations. So everybody on this call today has probably had a MuleSoft digital experience, experienced one, maybe even today. So if you think about if you went and ordered some food from McDonald's, either on a kiosk or from Uber Eats, or last time that you did your banking online, or if you think about Netflix or ordering something over Amazon, you've experienced digital experiences delivered by MuleSoft. And so basically people need digital experiences across various industries. But today, we will talk a little bit more about like digital experiences in education and the public sector. So schools like MIT, Michigan State, Arizona State University. If you think about SUNY, the University of California system, SNHU. If you think about the organizations that are either have really high quality digital experiences at scale, or they're striving to do that, are leaning on organizations like MuleSoft and this platform approach. So let's talk about like how do we get here, right? So the digital age that we're in today. So we know that change is the only constant that's taking place, and the rate of that change is accelerating. So I was born in 1969. We basically were just putting a man on the moon at that time, but because of the innovations and the new technologies that have been coming into place, changes is growing at an exponential rate, and so it's very difficult to keep up with the change management that needs to take place. And so, if you think about the traditional demands on an IT group, they basically have a fixed ability to deliver. And what I mean by that is that they don't have unlimited resources to help your organization have these connected experiences, and so their budgets are not going up, or if they are going up, it's not keeping pace with the rate of change. And so the demands on IT have never been greater, but the IT's ability to deliver on this is relatively flat over time. And so if you think about the number of applications that an organization the size of Rutgers has at their disposal, it's probably over 1,000. So this is just the average number of applications that take place across any organization, but I bet you that number at Rutgers is actually higher. And then organizations, basically, only about 29% of those apps that they have that are available are actually integrated. And what I mean by that is delivering a fully integrated experience. So there's a lot of things that are basically driving this change, right? And if you think about specifically in education, where's technology coming in? So the first is, and I think foremost is, the increasing constituent expectations. So if you think about a student today at Rutgers and all the digital experiences that they have had before they come to Rutgers, they know what a quality digital experience is. And when they come to Rutgers and they might not necessarily get that high quality experience, it's disappointing to them, and it reflects on how they feel about the organization. So they've been having these connected digital experiences for years, and sometimes the digital experience, maybe when they come to campus or when they are trying to consume resources at Rutgers, can sometimes be less than fulfilling. The second one is that data is the new currency. So the better connected that the systems that Rutgers supports, and the less siloed that they are, the greater chance and the greater ability that they have to actually tap into that data. And so data has never been more important if you want to be able to make real-time decisions and make decisions that are basically based on facts. You really need to have access to that data. And then also the hyper specialization. So again, if you think about the number of apps, the number of digital experiences that can actually be delivered, they can be very segmented across an organization the size of Rutgers. So if you think about the digital experience that maybe somebody would have in an online program, might be entirely different than maybe the experience that they would receive if they were a traditional student going to campus. And then last but not least is the opportunities that are there for machine learning and artificial intelligence. So when people are thinking about how do we connect these systems, and if you don't have an integration strategy, you're basically going to be left out of some of these opportunities that are coming down the pike with some of these new solutions that are taking place and some of this new technology. So if you think about what is it, what's an integration strategy, right? If you think about it, it's really digital transformation. So when I was reading Rutgers' strategic plan about a year ago, digital transformation is basically front and center. So the idea of getting to that one Rutgers as a goal, it can't be done without having an integration strategy. And in order to get to that digital transformation, you really need to have one that's well thought out. So Rutgers isn't alone here. We know that 87% of higher education institutions are currently going through, or they have in plan, basically a digital transformation initiative that's basically similar to one Rutgers. And the goal is that this is about improving your constituents' digital experiences. So if the goal is to get to one Rutgers, basically, and that's digital transformation. How do you do that, right? And so organizations that are doing that today, they use digital technologies in all aspects of the organization. And so they have a consistent approach to it. And this consistent approach is around building digital assets that can be reused. And so one part of the strategy is to make sure that your organization is thinking about digital assets and not building out technical debt, if you will. So Rutgers' ability to actually innovate and change your constituent experiences, again, and I'm going to use the term constituent today quite a bit. So think about everybody in the Rutgers ecosystem. So not just students. If you think about staff, you think about the alum, you think about your partners. All of this is going to be contingent on Rutgers' ability to actually change digital experiences and change them, not just for the better, but be able to do that in faster ways. So when I talk about digital assets today, digital assets, they feel like physical products, right? So they serve and generate constituent demand. They fulfill a related set of tasks. They're manufactured, they're released, they're marketed, and they're distributed. But where they're different is that, as opposed to delivering a material good, we're actually providing a digital experience, right? And then ultimately, you want the digital experience to be able to actually change in the hands of the student so that they can have the digital experience that they need. And basically, these digital experiences are powered by software. So experience matters, right? We know when we're having a bad digital experience. If Kate is, and Kate, are you still on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
So if you think about the digital experience when I was actually registering for this conference, and it got to the payment part of it, right? And so I just wanted to pay for the conference, and basically the experience that I had was, I had to either mail the check or I had to fax my credit card information over to you, right?
Yep.
So, experience matters, right? And so how do we provide and make sure that our students, our constituents, our partners are having, quality experiences as opposed to, having to use a fax machine, right? So I bring up these pictures, kind of jokingly, but, sometimes, again, digital experiences aren't all created equal. So who are the standard bearers here? So who are the folks that are actually delivering these awesome digital experiences, and how are they doing it? So if you think about how Amazon, Google, Salesforce, Netflix, how are they actually delivering these great experiences that your constituents expect? And so they're doing it using these things called APIs. And they view their APIs as digital assets. And so what we want to do is, think about, okay, what is an API first, right? So technically, it's a network addressable interface to software functionality, right? But practically, basically, it's a way to let people, devices, and application access your organization's capabilities. But when I talk about APIs today, I'm going to talk about modern APIs. So APIs have been around for a long time, but a modern API is different than a traditional API. And so it's different in this respect. The API needs to be able to be designed to make it easy to consume. So in this model, you need to have APIs that your IT groups and teams are creating, but the consumption of the APIs is just as important as the production. And then your IT group needs to be able to manage for security, scalability, and performance. And the APIs should be discoverable and accessible through self-service. So whether it's the self-service of somebody, an IT group in the alumni group, or enrollment management, or student success, they should be able to access these modern APIs, these reusable building blocks, without even bothering or taking up any of the central IT's time. So I'll talk a little bit about, some of the experiences that you may have today, just using APIs. So if you think about, something like voice activation or artificial intelligence using voice. So how does an organization build something like this, right? How do we connect that device? And so, if you think about how Amazon's doing this with voice activation, they build an API. And basically that API is accessible to anybody. So it doesn't matter whether you're using Amazon's voice activation or if it's using Siri on your iPhone. They build an API that anybody can plug into this, and then it will then add that service to Amazon Web Services. So you can today, if you want to, you could order a ride from Lyft that basically, you could use a voice activation device to use it, something like Siri if you wanted to. This is also enabled by an API. So on both sides of this equation, Amazon's using APIs to connect devices to their constituents and to other additional services. And then thirdly, if you think about, hey, what is Lyft doing or what's Uber doing? They focused in on the delivery of these services, but they didn't have to, create another Google map or something along those lines or replicate that service. They were, with their application, they were easily able to add something like Google Maps to their tool set without having to create that. And that's also is powered by an API. So APIs are being used all the time, and if they're designed properly, they can really deliver a great digital experience for the end user. So I'm just going to talk about Amazon here really quickly, and I'm not going to go through step by step here. But Amazon started off as an online retailer of books, and basically what they did was they had a strategy that, hey, we're going to create digital assets that we can reuse. So they started off in an area where they were selling just books, but they used these digital resources to become an online retailer of literally anything. And they were reusing these digital assets, these APIs, to get all the way to where they are today. So the business value of an API for Rutgers, there's a number of different areas, right? It could be increased revenue, could be improved efficiency, could be a higher quality of a digital experience. And then also the other value of APIs is greater agility. So when you compose your integration strategy around APIs, the APIs are composable. And we'll talk a little bit more about how this agility comes about. And I can frame it in some ways that are specific to Rutgers. But ultimately, what this approach is, it's a digital strategy. And the idea is that, hey, we can use these digital assets to reimagine constituent experiences. We can improve the velocity and agility and evolvability of our digital experiences. And ultimately, what we want to do is treat these APIs as first-class digital products and managing that whole life cycle. And so at the end of today's call, I do have a document that I can share that's basically, it's a blueprint on how organizations actually get started with the integration strategy that's API-led. But the first and most important thing is you need to establish a strategy first. What are we doing? and if this is something that Rutgers would like to pursue, again, basically that strategy is fundamental to actually doing this. So I have a blueprint at the end. If folks are interested, I'll be more than happy to send that to you. So the next phase here is really that constituent experience, like focusing on what are the needs of Rutgers constituents, right? And then basically this is where the innovation comes in. And it can be disruptive as well, but essentially we have to have the end in mind. What type of digital experience are we trying to deliver for our students? And again, it's oftentimes this is more important in online delivery, right? But the lines between on campus and off campus have been blurred quite a bit, and even more recently. And so always start with the constituent experience in mind. And so we find that organizations that are embracing this opportunity, they're basically leading digital organizations really to try to figure out, okay, how do we provide a different or unique or a tailored constituent experience to our community. So again, if you look at the organizations that have done it really well, the Netflix, Airbnb, Uber, Google, they didn't shrink away from this new digital environment. They actually embraced it. And so it doesn't mean that, the older types of experiences are going to go away anytime soon. They're not, but they're going to be, less relevant over time. So if you think about the organizations that are leaders in this area of using APIs and actually providing digital experiences that are unique or exceptional, you're thinking about organizations like Southern New Hampshire, right? That organization started as a small, primarily face-to-face university in Southern New Hampshire. 4,000, 5,000 students. They're now over 140,000 students. And how do they deliver these great digital experiences online and at scale? And again, they do this through API led. If you think about Arizona State University online and what they've done to support the COVID effort in Arizona, like basically they were able to ramp up all their face-to-face courses online in a matter of days because they had an API-led approach. Weston Governors is another one. And then there are schools that are beginning to embrace this approach, right? So if you think about Purdue, if you think about SUNY, if you think about Penn State, you think about Michigan State, all these organizations are moving in that direction, still trying to figure out exactly the best way to manage it. I wouldn't call them leaders, but they're in that area right now where they understand that, hey, we need an integration strategy that includes APIs and API led. So the challenge for Rutgers and for all these organizations is that how do you innovate without disrupting your existing business, like the day-to-day stuff, right? So that's the dilemma that's there. But this approach around APIs, I think it's important to understand to get a sense of like basically how this works. And so if you think about an API-led experience or integration pattern, if you will, it starts off with what we call system APIs. And then the system APIs are built usually by central IT. And basically they would put, an API over the student information systems, or you could put an API on top of it could be Salesforce, could be any system of record that you want, and from there you're orchestrating basically some sort of business logic. So whether it's, let's just say, hey, I need faculty data out of these systems, or I need student data out of these systems. We're building these out in a process level. So that's called a process API. And then that data is then being aggregated potentially. So in this example, It's a little bit of an simplification, but if you're looking at it, there could be something called a One Rutgers API, right? So that API that's there can be leveraged by anybody inside of the Rutgers organization. And they don't have to know anything about the complication of what's going on underneath with these underlying systems. All they need to know is say, hey, here's my API, here are the rules, here's how I can connect to it. And so the idea here of this orchestration is basically the complexity of the systems that are underneath are hidden to the end user. And so anybody from any area, again, even non-technical people can access this API and actually get the data out that's required. But at the same time, central IT can actually control, securitize, and again, they have the power to grant the access to this API. But the beauty of this approach is that, again, it allows organizations to move really fast. Let's just say we switched from, I don't know, maybe we're moving from one version of Oracle to another version of Oracle underneath. The beauty of this approach is that as I'm replacing that system, I'm just replacing that one API, and everything that happens beyond that is unaffected. So I don't have to start from scratch every time that I want to build out an orchestration. So, and that allows organizations, when they do want to provide a quality digital experience or a new experience, basically they can change really quickly. Last but not least is that experience level API. And again, these things can be created by even non-technical people. Again, as long as they adhere to the rules of the exposure of the API from central IT. So what's the advantage of this approach? And so the first is speed. So basically, having these plugin APIs ready, basically you'll be able to deliver services much faster. As mentioned, you can also build out agility in this model. So since the APIs are built out and there's a layered approach that's there, you're really isolating the function of each one of those APIs. So if you do have to change, you don't have to recreate the whole wheel from scratch. And then last but not least is the innovation. So when you're unbundling and untying the complications of some of these systems that Rutgers are currently using, it will actually allow Rutgers the opportunity to say, hey, what type of digital experience do I want to provide, as opposed to saying, hey, this is the digital experience that I can provide. So in closing, I'll talk a little bit about, the advantage of this approach is basically, hey, we can unbundle the complexities if we have this API-led approach. It's also going to allow us to reach new audiences, new channels, and then also you can extend your community as well and your offering. So again, that plugin API-ready services, either something that Rutgers created or even things from third parties. So in summary, basically if Rutgers is going through a digital transformation, I think everyone agrees that the organization is. Digital transformation requires a digital asset mindset. So how are we thinking about this and building assets that the entire Rutgers community potentially could leverage? And then basically APIs can help introduce immediate digital solutions and enable future ones as well, because again, we're building out things that can be reused. And we know that digital innovation requires outside in thinking. So I'm thinking about the experience of the other first, and then I'm working my way backwards. Again, thinking about, hey, what's the best experience that I can provide, and thinking about that first before building. And then last but not least is that digital customer experiences can be reimagined with the helps of APIs. And again, everybody on this call today, basically, is experiencing digital experiences delivered by APIs. What happens when folks in your community then come to campus and it's less optimal than maybe the experiences that they're having with other organizations. So I do want to open it up for questions, Kate. I don't know how much time I have left, and also I want folks to know, if you do want a copy of the API-led blueprint, I'd be happy to send that out to folks. And so my email address is my first initial, my last name at MuleSoft.com. So with that, Kate, I will take questions.
Okay, we have about 9 minutes for questions. So folks, you can enter them in the chat. Also, if you want to meet with Mark during the sponsor break, he will have a vendor room open at 2 p.m. So yeah, 10 minutes, go ahead, enter your questions in the chat, and Mark can take it from there.
Think about what type of experiences that you would want to deliver, right, to your students or to your faculty or to your staff. Without the right integration approach, you're going to continue to have those disconnected experiences. And I know it's a huge undertaking, especially for an organization that's basically as large and diverse as Rutgers University is, but it's got to start with the strategy. And I guess I'll just wrap up on, if somebody asked you, well, what's Rutgers integration strategy? Again, it'd probably be very hard for the Rutgers community to actually be able to explain that. And so that's really where you have to start.
So thank you, everyone, and enjoy your next event. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.